I am present, Scott is present, Zane is present, Ryan is present, Tanya is present, Carly is present, and Jessica is present, and Joshua, sorry. And as well as a couple of guests. Hello, everyone.
Welcome, guests.
Welcome to Finance Board. You signed up for another year of this? Funny, Michael. But no. Welcome to Finance Board, everyone. So first off, we have approval of the agenda. I think there are a couple of amendments that would need to be made.
Oh, I amend, one of the proposals is that Tanya and I, Tanya, wrote amendments to the procedural rules of finance board to include the in-house system, so it makes sense and there's more detail in that than there is budgetary statute. So,
So we can have that in?
Please.
At the end, I believe?
Wherever you want.
I mean, I would probably put it after we talk about the orgs, I guess, because it's not going to take long. It's just
Fantastic.
reading over it, I guess. If
Before
anybody
announcements.
changes.
Okay, right before announcement, Joshua, can you make that change for me? Finance Board, Corey's got it. Procedural rules, amendment.
No, you gotta vote on it.
Oh, right.
I don't have it up.
Someone
Well, if we
Sorry.
have any more amendments.
Are there any additional amendments? I would like to add one line right after Carry the Love. HLSU has an additional $170 fee that may or may not be exercised this Friday. It is dependent, I think, on how the weather is faring. If they're out on the terrace, they do not need a housekeeping fee. However, if they are within the game room, they will need one. Brett asked us if we're able to cover it.
Oh.
So I'd like to add them to the agenda as well for HLSU. Any additional amendments? Seeing that there are none, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay.
Second.
All those for approving the agenda as amended, please raise your hands now. People are there. 7 of us here, right? All of us here. Okay. 7-4, 0 against, 0 abstaining. So next off, we have the approval of the April 23rd minutes. Is there a motion or anything to discuss? Okay. Second. All those approving the minutes from April 23rd, please raise your hands now. 7-4, 0 against. On to the next. Meeting preparation. Frankly, because they aren't actually coming in, I think it's perfectly fine if we just move directly into it. And I can give you guys an overview of the situation one by one. Sounds good. Any objections? Alright, so go ahead. AF Theater Company, actually I'll leave this one to Carly. They had sent, Britt had sent you an exact email for how much money was spent on.
Yeah, so I talked to her. Cool. So, at the beginning of the school year, AF's balance on their carryover account was already at a deficit of $166.47 for charges made from last year. We allocated them for ECS fees for the Rocky Horror event. This is what this is about, the Rocky Horror event that was held in October. We saw them September 25th. And they were approved $3,127 for in ECS fees by us. It was a little more than that. Yeah. The total allocation was a little more than that to account for like information, costumes, and all that stuff. So we gave them $3,127 for total ECS fees. After billing, only $3,087 was charged their account for ECS fees, meaning there was $40 that was not spent on ECS fees that we had allocated. So it's like $40 technical rollback. I'm just reading. The audiovisual costs, there were a couple of changes in what was allocated versus what was actually spent by the organization because the AV costs jumped up because they didn't account for the rehearsal dates. They also did not account for the recital hall use fee, like $25 or $50 or something like that. But we did allocate for housekeeping, which is $20 that was actually not needed. So those funds were, I guess, dispersed and reallocated. I think that's what Tori said as well, that some of them were reallocated.
Yeah, so I'm this email is even more different. Britt sent it to me also. I was reading it too.
Yeah.
More different than what we thought. So you over allocated them, is what this email is saying. Essentially, like Carly said, they're in a deficit. And basically, what Britt has lined out, there's a chart at the bottom too, Carly. I don't know if you see that or not.
For the table, yeah.
Yeah.
How far this one will serve?
Essentially, what it is showing is that you over allocated $40, and AF was assuming that the deficit, that all of their deficit was coming from ECS fees that were not spent. Their AV did increase quite a bit. However, they weren't charged housekeeping, so David Royer put that $250 towards the increase, and it covered everything, if that makes sense to everybody. So at this point, I guess what Britt's email is saying is if that you want to keep that $40 towards them, it would go towards their deficit.
Where did this deficit come from then?
They had it go moving into the school year.
And well, it grew. So how did it grow?
We don't.
Not from this event. So
So when you said that they didn't allocate for the change in the recital dates, was that the organization or was that like the fees that went through like Britt and everybody?
I think a little bit of both, but when they had submitted their request, I just think they didn't account for the reversal dates, and like they tried to account for housekeeping because I think that was when Britt initially thought everything needed housekeeping. They didn't need that. So I think it was the student who not knowing that they needed to account for the second fee or the extra dates for rehearsal to the body visual.
So did David Royer pull from like different allocations to cover changing the fees without a reallocation request?
he usually does that if it's for ECS.
I think, yeah. So technically, yes, he did that with reallocation. I'm fine with that because it's all coming from and going to the same place anyway. But yes, I wasn't aware that that's what.
Yeah, so initially, the numbers Carly and I were talking about last week were that they would still be owing $40, but Britt just sent numbers of what they were actually billed versus that pre-event form that we usually look at for ECS,
Right.
if that makes sense. That amount billed is almost $100 less than what was on her form, which was a $40 difference of what we
Yeah.
allocated. So now we have over allocated $40, and
Yeah.
essentially so technically this isn't really even something that should be on the table at this point now
Yeah.
with these new numbers.
Yeah,
I'm
this-
good.
Did they pay off their deficit before they came to the finance board the first time?
Apparently they were already in deficit. At the beginning of the school year, AF's balance was in a deficit of 166 before
And then
even
rose
coming
to 2 something.
for charges from last year, from
Yeah.
last school year.
Yeah.
Which it says details can be reviewed with David Royer. I'm sure he has those exact numbers to what.
Good. But then it rose. That's like my question though. That's like how did they exactly? It rose by $130.
Yeah. Another point to be brought up, and Tori, I don't know if we've had this discussion before,
$130 per month.
but under like SOC regulations and things like that, I
Mhm.
think it like clearly points out that student organizations shouldn't be allowed or like are not allowed to take on debt.
We'll look at it.
I'm not sure if that's correct yet, but I think that's just another issue of like,
If it's on an SOC, it's somewhere.
yeah,
Because I know I've read that.
yeah, because we keep running into this problem of like purchases keep going through and then like student are in debt. So either like throughout the year they're trying to pay it off, or like the next board comes in, they're like, why can we not like get the money? That's,
Yeah.
or why can we not use carryover funds? Like, well, you have to fundraise to actually get to 0 and then start. So I think that's probably a discussion we should have in SOC, but also
I can
with
ask
SAPC
David
about
to pull who's in the
yeah about spending non-existent funds. So.
Can they also technically submit finance board requests when they have a deficit?
They're not supposed to.
You're not supposed to, but you don't, like, I don't check what your carryover account is. It's just an application request. It's just,
And this just might be us identifying something that we can do better with next year. Both on me and Courtney should probably be doing this too. David should be running a report, and then Zane and Scott for next year. Something that we're all keeping tabs on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the current point, I don't know. There's not much we can do at the moment, I believe. I mean,
What motion can we do to like just pass it? We're not even reimbursing them for ECS costs for those things.
we can just move to table it. There wasn't any legislation or anything before either.
Should we move on from the agenda?
Yeah. No, we don't need, if it doesn't need to be removed,
Oh,
we can
well,
just move past
okay,
it.
yeah.
We can just close debate.
If no one makes a motion, then it just falls, right?
Yeah. I think another question that we do need to ask now is, more, I mean, this is more applicable for the next organization, so I suppose we can get that as well, so. But.
I'm gonna double check with Britt to confirm that technically they have been over allocated, and I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Just a confirmation.
All right, so we'll table this one for now. We'll bring it back while Rick gives confirmation. So, move the table until the end of the meeting. Second.
Yeah. No, consent.
Okay, fantastic. On to the next one, CSA. CSA had contacted Carly and I in reference to, wait a second. I'm gonna forward this. So for today's meeting, I don't particularly mind if you use your phones and laptops. Go ahead and bring them up. Other organizations aren't here, so I'll be forwarding this email to all of you. So, just went out. If y'all really want to give it a read.
Joshua.
Joshua, I forwarded it to you as well.
I think it's logged into here.
Oh, is it? Okay, that's fantastic. Do I have anything on my email that I told people to see? That's a question.
Probably.
Probably not. There you go. It's a bit small, but if you can zoom into that one, that'd be great. So yeah, functionally, this is that when CSA was being seen for, I believe, their Lunar New Year request, they had not submitted any ECS fees. And functionally, they were still charged ECS fees of $1,600. Yeah. Of course, now this does bring us to the question of, what do we do with student organizations in debt? Because technically, they're not allowed to.
But I think the problem is no one technically enforces it, so like,
Yeah.
I guess when, I don't know if anybody's like talked to David or SGA, but like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming when the purchase goes through, it just goes through.
For ECS fees and stuff like that, they're like, when the event occurs, do they not receive confirmation that the ECS fees can be paid for?
So this kind of goes back to that bigger outlier where Carly and I were kind of explaining why it takes so long to close the books, that things are just kind of paid for up front.
Okay.
And then it's gone through like, okay, this fund, this charge came from Scott's event, so I'm looking at Scott's carryover to take that money there.
Yeah.
So it's paid for up front, if that makes sense,
Right.
by SABSC,
And
and
then
then pulled from the
Okay.
specific carryover accounts,
Okay.
which puts people in deficit.
Yeah.
Same way you can overdraft your own bank account, but things are paid just up front and then labeled to where it was supposed to come from.
Okay. So then the question is, like, what do we do with these type of things then?
Can you open the allocation?
Which word is it, are we talking about?
CSA. Proceed a bit over 4,000, under 4,000, I believe. You can zoom in for me. That'd be great on the very top number.
Who's enforcing the rule that no student organizations can go into debt?
That one.
I mean, like, not enforcing, but whose rule is it?
It
Well,
is-
It's a
we have it.
university, I think it just,
Yeah.
I mean, we have a written policy that like not only does SGA not pay student or debt incurred, but like that in the first place there shouldn't be any, and just no one either coordination like enforces that or stops the purchase from going through.
Yeah. So,
So was this requested in the fall?
it was in the fall for the spring.
Okay.
We really didn't notice
What's
it.
the name of your gallery?
When I went to the live stream, we didn't say anything.
They didn't say where it would be held.
Yeah, it did, and we didn't, we breezed through this one. Yeah. Part of me is going with the idea that, like, when organizations submitting their requests and stuff like that, part of my job is to make sure that they are compliant. And actually makes sense. This one feels a bit like a fault on us.
Are we allowed to pay debt?
We have done in the past. We have. It would just be an amendment to issue an additional, whatever amount it was, 1601 for ECS fees. 1616.5 for ECS fees.
They said it's their fault.
Yeah, they said it was their fault because they didn't put it onto it, which is true. But then there's also, why didn't we catch it? We every single one of us is able to know you can't have an event without ECS fees. Especially of this size.
How much do we have left?
We have a bit over. From my calculation, though, when I was looking through it, because Paxa was canceled, there's still around 3,000 left. Yeah. Because the first organization that we started seeing again was Anime Society, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then from that added up with all the Anime Society. Okay. From there, I only counted up to about 6,005. That was like 125 there, and then what? MSA, HLSU, Paxa, a couple organizations here and there. Paxa was the big one, took up very little functionally. And that one rolled back, and then by the end of this, a little bit more money to roll off with. I think we have enough money theoretically if we wanted to disperse back.
Yeah, because it's tricky because you don't want them to do that. They can't be traditional organizations. They need to be able to operate and like use their regular account for things, and they can't do that if they're in a deficit. But that's also like, should we be the ones that leave them out?
Yeah.
At the same time, we would have paid that anyway.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Yeah, so it's like the back and forth of it all.
Yeah.
Who does bailed out student orgs in deficit before the end of the
How often have
I mean, once or twice every
Yeah.
single year, you know, it's
It's
just
not a
like,
happy thing.
yeah,
It's not like, oh, who's with that?
yeah.
You know.
So is there, what would we like to do for this one?
Could we ask them to pay part of it? I mean, fundraise for part, like a quarter of it, and then we pay 3/4 of it.
I mean, even then, it's what, $400-ish?
I think we
Quite hard.
pay it. We should.
I think we should
pay the
pay it as
full.
well.
I think like the prime concern right now, at least when I first saw this, was like, and when I went through the minutes and I went through the live streams, that we didn't bring it up.
We were focused on tablecloths.
Indeed. And these are the type of things that theoretically the Fine Sport should be catching. Of course, you know, they did admit fault, they did not put it in. You know, obviously, student organizations should be doing their own due diligence as well, but I feel like the board should have caught this one. Yeah.
In theory, I think it should have been caught also before coming to finance board, but at the same time, I think it would be paralyzing to the organization if we did not cover it.
I don't think we have to think about it that way. We
I
can't
think,
think of it that way.
so something Candace and I were discussing is that, yes, with this case, that is kind of obviously, the board did not bring it up, which is something to consider. At the same time, the organizations have a responsibility to their own carryover accounts and their own fiscal responsibility. And you have to figure out, as the finance board of SGA, that's not your role to bail everybody out, if that makes sense. They come to you with a request, and if they're not fully asking for what they want, that's their prerogative. Do you need to be doing some due diligence to make sure they're asking for everything they need? Yes. However, should they have even had the event if they,
Well, I
first
think
place,
off the basis of the way the system works, they pull it first. I mean,
right?
yeah.
However, I'm pretty sure, and I'm not positive on this, but I think ECS confirms that the funding goes through too,
Yeah.
like from you all.
Right. So I mean,
So there might have
Does
been
it
some
slip somewhere?
miscommunication in there too.
yeah, it slipped somewhere where we let this one through. I mean, it was first at us, and then ECS can catch it, and then
Yeah.
well, the way SGA works, it's one thing that follows standard protocol. So now we're stuck with this situation.
In most cases with SABSD, they usually check to see if they have enough money in their account before they buy anything. Like before they order decorations, they even check and make sure that they have enough money in there. So I don't know how this went through when they clearly didn't have close to $2,000.
Doesn't David usually reference the legislation as well?
Yeah. Yeah, he is out, he sees it, and so he knows what you've all approved.
Yeah.
Which I mean, and I don't know how ECS is built too, so maybe on his end, I think he's only doing the stuff they're ordering.
Right.
Food, decorations, and ECS just gets plopped into it.
Yeah.
After the fact.
It's very possible.
There seems like there should have been multiple points where this event should have been canceled because they didn't have the funding for ECS.
Or at least caught brought their attention for benefits.
Is there any way that it's kind of like both the finance board and the organization's fault that they can do like half or fundraise half?
I mean, that's what Ryan had brought up as well. However, it's simply at that point.
And
We-
to keep
we
in, and to remember
recognize-
that you all are also over allocated.
Yeah.
Because if you give them the full 1,600, does that mean that there's only 1,400 left?
I mean, there's no additional requests coming in. So,
Because
yeah. Sorry, Scott.
Just in like a practical sense, it is very, very difficult for an organization to raise like $800 even. So this is, I don't know like what liability ECS is going against because like if they have that much debt, I don't know if they can continue as a club.
I mean, there's just multiple points of failure. It's oftentimes just simply finds what picks it up.
I think that's what we should do.
I feel like other bailout incidents has also just been like over ECS that was like not properly communicated or had altered some of it.
I think I'm kind of impartial to the fact that the club should still pay something just because it was still a mess up on both ends. I understand that there's even if you're 25% is still like $400. So I think the more fair solution here is maybe not 25% or a certain percentage, but they should have to be made to pay something since it was a mess up on their end too. I mean, all treasurers are, I guess, still held, because I'm now treasurer of the club, so I know this karma's gonna come back and forth. But all treasurers have to do the same due diligence and, write out the requests. And if that was left out of the requests, I think that there should be penalized in some form or type of way for that. So I think finance board should pick up a portion of it, probably a large portion of it since fundraising is hard. But I think they should still be made to pay something as an example.
So do you want a percentage?
No, you want just a flat amount, functioning like a fine. Just like a fine of yada yada yada. You have a remaining whatever amount of that you need to pay for. And then essentially the functioning goes to how much the finance board feels adequate reprimand functionally. Despite,
Has anybody actually done fundraising?
Yeah.
Fundraising is possible, and there's plenty of opportunities on campus and off to fundraise. It's just a matter of people actually doing it.
I mean, like anybody in here.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
How'd you do it?
Bake sales are a popular thing, not necessarily the most effective at restaurant fundraisers.
I did badly.
I mean, Grid Starter is a perfect example that nobody uses on this campus that people can fundraise so much money on, and they just don't do it. The big groups that use Grid Starter are athletic teams and departments. Mock Trials used it. The student orgs that travel overseas for service use it, and they raise thousands of dollars. Swim team right now currently has like $7,000 or $3,000. I think their goal is like $7K, and they've raised $3K already. So
I feel like that would be harder though. Like, hey, we fucked up. You pay off our debt.
you don't have to word it that way. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
this
just-
is a fundraiser for our
yeah.
organization, and then it's different than like a Chipotle fundraiser where you're limited to who walks in the door between 5 and 7. You can have it open for 4 months, 5 months, whatever that may be.
You can share it. across
Share it on
platforms.
Facebook, share it with your family, share it with your friends, share it with alumni. Fundraising can be done if the will is there.
What's the average amount raised?
Yeah, that's hard to say because
Yeah.
it's based on what your goal is.
There's also a lot of Grid Starters that just aren't successful, whether that's based on the lack of sharing or based on the networks that you share, but not either being willing to or not being able to contribute.
Usually there. So, that's so yeah, how much you share, when you post it. Yep.
Yes. So I was going to have a straw poll first of all, so we make a determination of which path the finance board has to continue down. Option A would be to fully pay off the debt, and option B would to have some portion of debt remaining to the organization. And we can continue discussion of how much once we agree on that. All right, are the options clear for everyone?
Don't you need the option of not paying that at all?
Oh, an option C, not paying at all. Or, okay, I prefer having binary choices because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I'm
Option
sorry,
A is to
but
pay
like-
for some of it, is to pay for the debt at some level, and option B
Yeah.
is to pay for none of it, right? All those.
Just start with option A.
No, don't we do it? Scott, don't worry. There's a method to my madness. Option A is to
Put
pay,
money towards it.
to pay somebody, to pay something, like, it's not determined yet. Option B is to pay none of it, right? All those for option A? You're 7? Those for option, okay. All right, now we go to the separate question. For option A is to fully pay. Option B is to pay partially. Is that clear for everyone? Okay. All those for option A, please raise your hands now. 2. All those for option B? 5. Okay. Now we need to move into the discussion of what you guys believe is functionally a fair judgment.
I have a question.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking about what the average fundraising was is because we could basically take that and formulate some sort of baseline
Yeah.
for the penalty.
I see people come in with like $3 or like $300.
Depends on the organization.
Well, it depends on what you're going to.
Yeah.
Just general fundraising.
When big sales.
I don't think we have that number. So, yeah.
It's hard to calculate because like you could have like some like even with bake sales, like some bake sales are like really successful because it's like you sell a lot of baked goods, or you could have a Krispy Kreme like fundraiser and have like 0 people buy. Yeah, those could be successful. I've seen them have been. It's just depending. So I don't know if an average is good. I still think like
A flat amount of some sort.
I think a flat amount, but then again, like what do you base that in? I mean, because we're not doing this like we're not going to do this in the future, or try not to at least. So, I mean, I think we've said like 3/4 of the percentage, but like I think a flat amount of like.
I'd rather use a percentage.
Okay.
That was make a flat.
It's like
1,200. No. 1,200. We pay $16.
No, I thought it was 1,600.
Yeah.
600.
Unless I can take them. Or no, like it's to bring everyone back into it. Just when we're talking, can we talk about how much we'd like to like have them leave in that function, right? Basically.
Yeah.
And you want them to -200, -300, -400, or whatever it is.
I'd suggest -200.
-200. Could you explain or perhaps what brought you to -200?
It's basically, if you're gonna go over $200 in debt, you messed up somewhere, like significantly. So I think that should remain on their balance. But anything else, it seems like it would put the club too far in the hole to really recover from.
Certainly.
I was thinking 500,
500.
because I feel like that's like, I don't know, a little over 2/3 of whatever their debt is now. So
Yeah.
we are paying majority of it off, it is like messed up, so we gotta.
Certainly.
How big is this?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Also,
Oh, no, you're fine, I'm just thinking.
Also, have they had any events where they have, I guess, requested for finance board and then they charge you tickets and whole money in?
I imagine they probably did.
So based on that, we can, I guess, formulate the type of income they, I guess, made money from.
I mean, I suppose, how many tickets this year, I think you're so listed like outside groups?
I mean, expected attendance was 200 all UMBC.
Oh.
But,
Well done. Right.
in the event we.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, typically you all don't allow groups to be charging tickets for events that you're paying for, but I also want you all to think about if this is a business you want to be getting into, bailing student orgs out on mistakes that.
We both. Us
We
and.
both made mistakes, like, it's generally,
But, so, what my point is, the only bailing out, if you want to call it that, that's happened this year is for mistakes that didn't happen from either of you, the org or the finance board body.
right, doesn't that increase our culpability then if we make mistakes?
If you want to look at it as yes, it is a mistake, and it's not a mistake at the same point.
Yeah.
Depends on how you look at asking, well, don't you have ECS fees as a mistake? Technically, you're just looking at what's in front of you versus,
What was supposed to be in front of us.
Mhm.
Alright, is there anyone who would like to go last night as your company?
This is the first time that CSB has asked for lunch in about.
I imagine so, yeah. In my
Yeah, I mean,
recollection.
I think, I mean, that we tended in the fall, we funded it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just,
This is the first time I've seen
yeah, it's just a major mistake because,
it's $1,600.
and it's also something that's like usually pretty clear because it's in your event planning form, so
Yeah.
you would just automatically include that, like with the finance order request. So.
Because the way I was sort of looking at this is like I was thinking everyone should have been reviewing the documentation before the meeting and not a single one of us said anything about it, which is, you know, either A, we're conveniently ignoring it, or we made a mistake. And
I think the idea of issuing a flat fee
this is
gives us an opportunity to see both sides. So, I mean, we should continue with that.
Yeah. Sure.
I think we should be careful of the optics too. Like this, we don't want to discourage clubs from having events because of the possibility of messing up and then being left with a lot of like debt. And we don't want it to look like SGA is like
Always gonna take on this kind of stuff.
taking that on or punishing organizations in this kind of way when we're completely able to pay them off. So we want, like, what kind of message will our actions take? So,
It's functionally what to see the stop on the wrist.
yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
And generally, we won't be doing this type of things as well. It's like I mean, we contrast this with Carry the Low functionally, you know, which is the next organization I was going to bring up. Their organization had their own event. They had the event despite not being receiving finance board approval and stuff like that, and the organization is now dead. For that type of organization, I don't see the finance board responsibility to pay for it. But because this event was approved by the finance board, the budgets were went over. I think at that point we should compensate for this.
And it's also something that we would fund if they included it, like fully. It's not like they were like, oh, we spent $200 on decoration. It was, so.
Okay.
Maybe like $100 for, they're like, that's a significant amount of money. We'll pay more attention, but not 500 where it's like we can't have events for the entire fall semester because of this.
Hey Josh, can you shake the mouse a second? Thanks. Oh, I'm not on yet.
Alright, so we're just talking about, who's want.
Leave them.
One sort of routine $100 right
I mean, let's try to base it off of something every month. You know?
there. I mean,
Well,
we don't want to.
You know,
What do you think that is?
how would you base a flat fee if it's not based on a percentage?
Well, what can you afford to cover?
All of it?
All of
Should
it.
start from there, but what does that do to, you've already over allocated, period, in general. We're already over allocating, assuming money will roll back from other places, correct? So keep that in mind. And from there, how much do you have left of what we've already over allocated from that number? And what else it'll be left over?
I'll do 2,000. Is one of my calculations. One more if we agree to increase value, I think, Jay.
In conjunction with SABSC and Campus and everybody, we said that 10% is an okay amount and 3,000 of that's coming back, so no, that's,
I think we're good to roll.
yeah.
Okay, we're just assuming.
This one's the worst. Pull from some of the other areas of the SGA budget about itself. Yeah.
He hasn't been doing that.
Yeah.
But the money can help us.
I'll play the game for a little bit. I don't know what the risk.
So that is a question of how much responsibility do you think you each should hold in this matter?
Council percentage would be adequate.
I
First
like,
board bears the responsibility of you not doing this type of stuff.
I like 500 because it's close to about 2/3 of covering the costs. We should have been holding the council and asking like, well, why
Carly's ruling?
Or, I know you said closer to 2/3, where is 2/3 coming from for you?
Like, you have where your responsibility to hold them accountable for what they're,
Sport takes a third. ECS and UMBC, there's propulsion system takes a third. Technical last third, they didn't do it. Three parties involved, and we'll take on responsibility from ECS.
So what's the final total left after paying 2/3 of
So we're going back to percentage, but yeah, whatever.
it? Yeah. Well, I feel like the flat rate has no context to go off of this. Not really.
2/3. So we can explain this one out.
Flat rate's not as bad as possible.
Yeah, we're confused for some. Without the expert. Yeah. Say the word for me.
Flat rate is not as burdensome,
Yeah.
potentially.
$500, so it should come out of this one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, flat rate is potentially because if you're saying flat rate for all
Oh.
orgs, not good, then yeah.
We could make stipulations only for this one.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
I don't think you're setting a precedent for all orgs because that's a bad business to be getting into.
Yeah.
And we're going to go back and look at this and be like, stop this down.
And regardless, the precedents would switch back over.
Yeah. Those big back actually.
Yeah.
So like what I'm going with is that, okay, I think 2/3 one is very explainable, you know, Times accepts 1/3 of the fault for not catching your mistake. Also because there were failures within the system from ECS and SABSC, that was not caught as well, the second step, and then also because they originated this thing, we'll take care of it. Yep.
Are those responsibilities weighted evenly?
I suppose it is in my mind now, because it makes a nice and clean number.
Does that make it right? I don't know.
Well, 90%.
90%. I suppose, was the majority of the failure on us. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
It's sending a message to the organization, but the officers next year will presumably not be the same ones messed up. So we're leaving their mistake.
That is life.
will they be leaving it on the same?
That, Scott, is the definition of life.
I don't know. I think more
Should we try to be better than that? though?
Yeah, falling better than mine.
Just saying. Tanya, is that your responsibility to be better than that?
I think so. I think it's everyone's responsibility to be better than that.
So 90% 70, we could actually be 20% better.
That's fine.
I mean, so we have to reach a consensus for a number. I'd like to move this one to everyone in agreement because this is an odd situation and if people are disagreeing, I'd rather not move forward. I'd like to call less than around one number.
So what's the
I'd like to
final?
call less than around one number.
Did you total?
But
If you pay the 2/3 off. Yeah.
what about, you pay $1,116.59.
You think the organization will do 500?
Which is that,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I didn't know if you wanted 2/3 or negative.
2/3 makes it nice and clean enough. It's like,
Okay.
yeah. As in, like, we can assign the 3 parties at fault. Here's everyone doing it at the fault.
90% is our
Oh, left over.
Okay. Scott is coalescing around the 90-10 number.
I prefer
Target prefers 90-10.
You suggest that around with
Not good idea.
90-10, Ryan. We're on 90-10.
There we go.
I want unitary, and this needs to go for unilateral. Yeah. Because this is, either we all accept the amount of fault that the final score is at, or we do not all accept the amount of fault that the final score is at.
So we have to reach like a
So I'd like to meet a consensus.
Still like the 2/3.
Yeah, I'm also not convinced that not that we don't have any fault in this, but it primarily is not our fault because student organizations are the treasurer's rank, they know, and we're I guess not assuming, but we know that they know how to plan on them, and leaving this portion off, I think has more fault on them. I mean, I guess in most cases we could just table it and then say, oh, add the ESC fees. But again, I think it falls more on their fault because again, we're not supposed to be in the business of micromanaging. We're supposed to see requests and approve them. I think obviously not seeing that part is partially us, but I think the majority of it still lies on like the responsible party of who's planning the event and who's submitting a request, which is the supervision, not like us. So I don't know. I don't really think we should be looking at this as like penalizing or like slapping student organizations' hands. It should be more of like reconciliation and like learning going forward. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really convinced in the 90-10 split because I don't think.
So we're all in agreement that the organization needs to take some level of responsibility on it. We simply divide up how much responsibility the organization should be capable of. Indeed.
The only question I have is, what was the total amount? Was it 16?
1600.
So
Yeah.
10% would be $160.
Yeah.
$161.
So.
I don't know how you get into it. SGA endorses restorative practices. We do not want to put a large enough fine that makes these people not feel part of the community anymore. Slap them the wrist and warning for records legions. So there you go.
Also, in general, for the things.
Also,
Both 90.
student body benefited from this, and it's not like just us versus them. It's
I don't think it's a question of us versus them. I think it's a question of how much babysitting and micromanaging is the board really responsible for, and is that a responsibility of the board or the groups that are asking for the money?
I mean, at the beginning of the year, the amount of micromanaging that the board did was a lot. You know,
And look how far you've come.
Yeah, we changed, but certainly probably in November, when we approved this one, I do not think the board will set hands off yet. We're still going line by line on decorations.
Yeah.
And then the next one, we're a lot more hands off than we, I think, in the next system. Like, if you go up desk, you're always find the problem. We told you exactly how much money you should expect.
Well-
And then it's not our problem to do it.
Well, the next system there should be, you should be allowed to like
Look at that.
search this, you know, because
I have intentions to fix that next year by working with the department.
Right, so let's move this process forward because you're all kind of just not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
who's not in favor of it. So.
Carly, Alexander, and I.
I thought you were leaning towards Lance.
I'm kind of leaning more towards that. I know. Now, our regulations on
It's just, he's there.
You want to,
I would prefer consensus, but you have the free to override, you know.
I thought you were.
You're also free to vote.
That was, but now on a daily basis, it's like, yeah, the organization should take responsibility for certain parts of it. If the third of it is fair, you know? And, you know, it's just like within many rights, it's, everyone failed somewhere along the line, alright? You know, it's just like, okay. They should have done their due diligence. We should have done our due diligence. DCS should have let them go to debt. SABC should have let them go to debt. Sparrows everywhere.
Well, thanks. I would also like to point out that during the minutes from that meeting, we did not ask them how they, or what they were contributing. Like, we asked how they were reducing costs, but not what costs they were taking.
And we never asked them about these issues.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would have been another way that we could have seen ECS was missing and failed to do that as well.
So, would you like to override me? You have to, but you can to override. Is there a second? Alright, all those for overriding the chair, please raise your hand now. We have 4, 5. Okay, now let's go to a standard vote. Okay. All those for approving a 90-10 split. That's what we'll pay out. Can I get an exact number, exact number? You know, we have to make amendments to legislation.
What's legislation?
All the legislation.
wait, no, we need the other number.
So how much were they gonna pay?
Yeah.
Not leaving the 161 number.
On the floor, you have legislation, it's nice association. Yeah, that's exactly which number it is.
We will be paying $1,454.90.
So we'll need to amend their legislation to allocate that. Control F, CSA, most likely. There you go. Here's Gala, there it is. 75, I believe it is that one, no, November 27th, introduction that happened in the second semester. Yeah, because so like how I think. There's a little more before that, so.
Is this not new legislation?
It would not be because I've been with it. We have done the CSV under their old allocation. Yeah, because we also need to use the legislation twice, stand with that. Yeah. So we just recommend it for FPS up to 5. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor?
To amend FEO 35-1989.
Okay. How much are you gonna add? Is it?
Yeah. There's a highway on the other side.
Wow, that's Jay. Okay. Is that how much is the number?
$1,454
Okay.
and 93 cents.
93 cents. Okay. All right. There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Okay, I'm sorry. All those who are approving this amendment, please raise your hands now. 5, 4. All those against? 2. Okay. All right. So that's that. On to the next one. And I don't know. Okay. Do I have to manually check me to decide to make amendments to it? Right.
Which amendment was this?
Lunar New Year.
So it's
CSA.
Yeah. It was when they brought in that.
the speaker that was like coming across. No, he was doing a speech or a talk, and like they needed him by that, or he would leave, or he was like 20 hours.
I think we have 5 to recess. Yeah. I gotta go. All right. 5 to recess, everyone. We'll be back at 6:25.
You better not have classes on the next. Is that why you didn't post your day?
I'm not really. Yeah, I know. You just call me.
It's like the bat
Basketball, yeah. And then I swoop in on my back wheel.
Like able to pick going the Broadway school, the Founding Father. I was in Hamilton.
Oh, I know who you are.
Yeah, you've never been there?
Never.
I just know a lot of people here.
I know from 1 to 8 p.m.
I'm gonna try it and
Please, thank you. Well, I can't, I'm over there.
he's gonna be I'm gonna be coming back early from Ocean City.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I don't know. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, I know lost. Last time you're not going, yeah.
Well, I think they're just giving them planning. We just pulled the subway and I didn't bring this in there. No, it's oh, occupy this. But I have to get rid of the
Well, there's soda there. Oh, yeah. Is it home? This is
Ooh. Right, that's what I said. It could partially be because I said
But I mean,
I love
Yeah, sugar really left it.
Blue raspberry.
wait, is it?
Yes.
CLB. How are you? You can guess where it's at. Oh, nasty.
I know.
That state, there's only certain areas. Wait, lots of people. And Fort Lauderdale's not one. No, Miami. Okay,
mangoes. I love mangoes.
What's the
Yeah.
No, it's in the pan. It's up towards it.
Yeah.
The pan is full of us. Nobody weird. Okay, weird.
Come getting back order, everyone.
To do what?
Excuse me, you can broadcast something else.
I already did that, you can't copy that.
Did he cut? Did he leave?
That went to the bathroom. Next item on the agenda is Harry Love's in. Give a brief overview of what's going to happen with that one.
Yeah, so I think the person in charge of it reached out to me to just kind of go over like some of like what's been happening and like an update to it. So this was the event that was, I think Carla was talking about, it was supposed to be seen by Finance Board. It was like the meeting was sent out, so we couldn't see them in time for their event, but they wanted to have the event anyway, so they went ahead without Finance Board funding. And stuff to have the event. And then when she was talking to us, she said like she didn't put personal money to reserve it, and then they used club carryover funds. And so yeah, and then at this point, kind of just emailing back and forth with her. She said that she had like in her fundraising efforts, like her personal stake in it has been cleared, so she got her money back. But the InterVarsity has been left a deficit of, I think the total is $419 because there was a housekeeping fee that was added on, and then some other increased fees that the club carryover account could not account for. So
Apparently at $419,
yes,
that's a check.
yeah, so that's the debt they're running. But kind of like in emailing with her, I told her about the finance board situation, and that like most cases, since specifically with this request, since it was not seen by finance board and it was not funded by finance board, there's really like no direct financial support that we would take on because this really didn't go through us, and we're not supposed to pay student org debts, and student orgs are not supposed to go in debt in the first place. And so I kind of just offered some other fundraising resources and like contacts within SABSC too, because she said that the final like debt was also not finalized, because I told her that like the books sometimes don't close out for those types of things until months out. So talking about that, but yeah, I think the final conversation was just like can SGA provide any like financial assistance to remove universities debt?
There's no legislation for us to amend, and then we don't pay reimbursement, so
Yeah,
we
that's-
shouldn't do anything. We should just
And they won't
figure out
see
their
bias,
funds.
right?
They submitted a request, because I looked it up, they submitted a request. The thing that was wonky about it was, when we were supposed to see them, it was at snow day.
Oh, okay.
And then
They're a
they
vote.
weren't seen in time for the event because the event had happened. And then
They
she
were
came.
offered to move the event,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
I just want everyone to know they were offered something to
Mitigate.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
To mitigate.
Well, not mitigate,
Yeah.
but really.
Well, you all offered them a route. You said you would not reimburse, which is that's what you do. You don't pay for something that's already happened. You offered if they would move the event that you would see them, and they said no.
Scott?
I feel like that's an unfair characteristic because it was somebody on tour and they couldn't change the tour dates.
But I mean, again, that's the nature
Mm-hmm.
of the event, but also
And it's also
You're not in the business of, as Zane said, taking on debts of other orgs.
Yeah.
it's
They
not-
have the opportunity to cancel if they couldn't afford it.
Even if we were, there's no way to pay off their debt now because there's no legislation to amend. And they can't submit legislation for an event that's already happened. So I think we should just move on.
Just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention, though.
yeah. And I think it just speaks to the larger thing of like these rules should be enforced and there should be mechanisms to prevent that. And it's also in guiding docs that we use for student organizations is that you're not supposed to be taking on debt, but also like they were to, I don't know, say you have $200 in your Caribou account, you're trying to spend $240, like something at SABSC should be like, no, this request is rejected, or this purchase will not go through because I have full available funds to pay for the expenditure. So yeah, I think I'm in context where I was offering like other like routes and resources and things like that. But again, kind of like Tori brought up, the aspect of like we were offering other routes as finance board, and again, like we shouldn't really be in the business of like using like student activity fee money to
For events that are not approved by the finance board.
that, but also like pay debts that like, is that really in the best interest of when everybody contributes to the pot using that money for that specific allocation?
Yes. So I think we're in agreement to not issue any reimbursements. Because we cannot actually. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it makes us heartless or like mean or anything like that. I just think it's like that's the way it is. The way it is, but also making sure that when we have this reform system implemented and we're doing things for budgeting and things like that, that there's actual systems and mechanisms that like prevent this from happening, and making sure people are like educated and know that when like using carryover account funds or using both finance board and carryover account, that you're accurately planning to spend those funds and not go into debt, which you shouldn't be able to because there should be a system that prevents that. So, yeah.
Are we good to close debate on this topic? Yep. General consent, close debate.
Yeah, I think
Good
so.
enough for everyone? Charlie? Okay. Moving on to the next subject, HLSU. Britt Spears had just notified me, I believe, yesterday, that there may be an additional $140 housekeeping expense for HLSU on the basis of where they hold their event, actually. If you guys look at the weather, this Friday it will be very thunderstormy apparently. And if they were to move their event to their backup location, which is in the game room, there's an additional $140 fee. Britt asked us if we're able to cover that.
Yeah, that's it.
So we'd be allocating extra $140 just in case it was to be moved.
Yeah.
So if we allocated and it was still nice enough to have outside, that money would just stay.
Roll back from us, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, can you pull up the legislative tracker? So we do that amendment, let me double check the number. And then, where's Brett? Did you get that email too, or no? Yeah. Oh, $170, my apologies.
Even less.
Well, it was 140 and then 170, so $30 more.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you meant just 70.
Yeah. So to read the passage to you, this is there was a mistake on the HLSU. Just informed by ABM that they require housekeeping at their event this Friday, May 3rd on the terrace. This is contingent upon them deciding by noon tomorrow whether or not they will have their event at their main location, which is the game room. So, yeah. Okay. And like honestly, if they make the decision tomorrow to not have it in the game room, and then we're still perfectly fine. So, all right. What is that legislation? HFPL 106?
Yeah.
What is that called?
To amend FPL 106 chapter 1819.
Second.
Where's that go, everyone? 1 second.
What a time crunch.
Are we back?
This room is
Yeah, we are.
This room.
Okay.
This room is.
Seeing that there is this motion on the floor, all those in favor, please raise your hands now. 7-4, 0 against. Okay, and we'll make that change. Before we actually get into that, I'd like to talk a little bit more about how do we implement systems to prevent student organizations from going into debt. You know, this is functionally now 4 organizations that have entered debt, and we need to prevent this type of thing. In theory, okay.
So I talked to David about a few things that I want to change next year, and one of those is a kind of like a treasurer training verification system. Even when there's turnover mid-year for organizations, I feel like those treasurers should still have the lock on their account before their treasurer training. Before submitting legislation or expending funds from their carryover account.
Perfectly fine system in place. So, when I was writing this, I was more like, how do we prevent them from actually just like, I imagine most of the treasurers that actually put in the orders and stuff like that this time around were treasurer trained, and still this occurred to them. I was like looking at ways to prevent that occurring.
Well, with the liaison person, that would be checked.
Okay.
Like holding SABSC to verify the funds with PCS beforehand.
I don't know how feasible this is, or I don't know if this is a thing, but like.
I think this is like an idea brainstorming.
Yeah, but I think there needs to be an actual like.
Can someone take note of this, please?
Mechanism or like projection of an expenditure.
It's an actual
if
document.
If there's
Thank you, Tanya.
if there's not enough sufficient funds in a carryover account to like make that purchase.
Well, I think it's simply with the way that's working right now. It would change. It would require changing the CPC. Like the way
Yeah,
that they do
I
the
think-
stuff.
That's my entire
I think all of like I mean we can make we can make the policy more clear from SGA because it already is a policy, but actual enforcement and like mechanisms are going to have to come from SABSC because, well I mean we don't even see carryover count requests if they're just doing that, but
Do we want to have it included, like I don't know, that verification of the carryovers and the positive, but before budgets are issued or something?
I think before you can do stuff like that, you need to have conversations with the people in SABSC
Yeah.
and Brit to see what the logistics are of actually doing that.
Okay.
So before like committing to an idea, make sure.
I was thinking just like some proposals we could bring to them. Just like, hey, we noticed this type of issue. These are some solutions that we'd like to pursue. What do you think that there's feasibility is on these?
I think you need to include them in those conversations. Is what I'm saying.
We did.
There are also current policies that just aren't enforced though, like AFD or Club shouldn't have been able to use money
Right.
that they didn't have.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
that's a conversation with SABSC and Brit to see why it even happened in the first place, and to see how I'm sure we don't know their processes either. You know what I mean?
So
I
because-
think it's conversations you all should have with them.
yeah, because we're all leaving though, Zane and Scott, have fun with that.
that's weird.
I mean, the rest of us will not be present. Oh wait, you can have me too. Sorry.
You have to be here.
You here? Alright, y'all get this one. Right, sorry. I do apologize.
Okay.
Sorry. What was your name again? I didn't catch it at least. Well, welcome to Finance Court. In for a good time. So yes, I'd advise you all to go meet with SABSC, try and figure something out to prevent this everything from
I mean,
happening.
yeah, it's probably better to do like a summer thing, but at least like plant the seed of like
Friendly.
They already know what to do.
Okay. Seeing that though, let's move on to the next one, Finance Board transition training feedback. So one thing I do think we need to talk about is what do we expect to get out of the transition meeting like next week? Despite a bunch of you all being here, but what do we want out of the transition meeting? What do you all want out of the transition meeting?
basic understanding of what our new responsibility is,
Okay.
considering that everything has changed.
Yeah.
I think it might be important to lay that out, especially because people who may have seen finance board before and understand it
Yeah.
might not understand the new system
Okay.
or what your intentions are.
What the new responsibilities are. Sounds good.
Ryan and I were kind of forming the Kahoot around more than just finance board, just things that we wanted to know when we were new members of SGA and check.
Okay. Sounds good. So what do you mean by like, because like remember there is officer training as well, which covers like a lot of that type of stuff.
Like,
And this one I wanted to be more focused on to like, hey, welcome to finance board, this is the kind of stuff you need to know about finance.
Especially since
well, we
they
could,
don't cover that.
I feel like we could cannibalize Colin's Kahoot for treasurer training though.
Oh, well, you could do that.
But ours was like, what does FRB stand for? What
Yeah.
does SABSC stand for?
Yeah. I mean, I
What
think
do
some
they
of
do?
those, like, you know, the relevant finance board ones make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we should target it mostly for finance board stuff. So, like, mostly what you guys, it's like, what are your responsibilities as finance board members? It's like, what's your interest, what you want?
process rather than just like
Okay. Okay, certainly, we definitely do. Do you want to, so, because it is a new system, and, you know, do you want us to, like, talk about how we thought the new system would be looking like, or do you guys just want to, like, deal with it yourselves?
maybe that's a question to ask them all together.
Yeah. Or at least currently.
I mean, it'd be good to get a frame idea of like,
Okay.
granted what you do is going to change, or
Yeah.
what your intentions are is going to change based on what needs to be changed.
Yeah.
But kind of just giving a general idea of a couple frameworks that you guys had. Like, this is how we envisioned it would work. We don't know how it's going to work yet. That's on you guys.
Yeah.
But kind of getting the core systems down.
Certainly. Anything else? Our sample group of, well, 5 technically. What do you want, Scott? You are also a returning member now.
I'm not a member. I'm not a finance board.
We will not be finance board representative.
Disaster.
Still a member of the board though.
So, Candace requested that you all figure out what the frequently asked questions are. Type those out and send them to her.
I'm not sure I answered them for us. I feel like we could do
Yeah,
that
I'm
without
actually making a transition document.
Oh, okay. Great.
It's just in the folder, it's not under anything.
Yeah.
It's in the finance board folder or something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever we talk about, it should include Zane and Tanya or something.
Yep. Definitely. Your expectations of liaison and how productive we saw it going.
Why do you think you're updating those Excel spreadsheets of SB?
Daniel, can you go in your inbox to retrieve the email?
What email?
Why are they?
Or the one I sent you
Delete all but
yesterday
the
regarding the changes for
administration
procedural rules?
Yee.
Please, just avoid all the stuff from Tinder.
It's entitled drafted legislation changes.
What was SGA?
SBR. Yeah.
It stands for Unity Among the Student Body. That's how
It stands for Colin Sullivan
Power and
Association.
Unity. I forgot. It's going to be the British podcast.
Yeah, we're rebranding SGA to VDA.
All right, Tanya, you want to take this one away?
Sure. Hi, Zane.
Hey.
So Zane and I went over everything that mentions the liaison system through the reforms that we made and tried to add those into the procedural rules under elected officers, since liaisons are effectively elected officers and it's an additional set of duties to that. So this would be modifying the elected officers portion of the procedural rules for finance board. And then since we made a 1.2.2 section, this turns the elected officer original wording into 1.2.1. So then the second part adds that the vice chair is charged with responsibilities of managing, coordinating, delegating, overseeing the liaison system, and the responsibilities include assigning elected finance board representatives as liaisons to student organization with relatively even distribution, overseeing assignment of liaisons to student organizations as necessary, creating a Google Sheets document available through the SGA shared drive to serve as a tracker of communication updated to liaisons, and then to serve as a point of contact for the liaisons as necessary. And then if you scroll down, the purpose of the liaison system and the task assigned to liaisons are explained. As the purpose of the liaison system is to serve as a communication bridge between elected finance board representatives and student organization leaders. Liaisons will assist with all questions regarding budget request packet throughout the semester in order to have a cohesive understanding of the request that will be presented to the finance board. And the liaison role finance board representatives will respond to email communications, hold weekly open office hours to be able to promote that like meeting availability, and how the quantity of hours would be determined by the vice chair. Review and sign reallocation requests as seen in section 6 of the finance board statutes. The review secondary ad hoc system requests and subsequently bring them before the finance board system as seen in section 7 of the finance board statute, and attend any penalty meetings as necessary for student organizations as listed in section 14.
So there are some word changes I'd like to make.
There are, yeah, I can see them. I can see a couple, but go on.
Yeah.
So,
And then they're more of like, kind of, I don't know. Can you go to the very first section? The first modified section.
oh, thank you.
Oh, sorry, so with relatively even distribution, I think you should probably define that out a little bit more.
Fair enough.
Yeah, is it not just even distribution by number, probably on workload or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the intention, but good catch.
Yeah, because at the current point, you just divide by 6, and then you're like, all right, close enough.
One representing this every cultural organization.
Exactly, and then they just
Like this semester?
exactly.
Or this
You
year?
know, it was not well planned this semester, to be honest. So it's a good thing we caught it now. But yeah, that's something I would like to make a change to. 1, 2, 2, 3, creating a Google Sheets. I think we should not limit them to just the Google Sheets. Some form of documentation is being made. However, I think limiting is a bit limiting. Okay, are there any additional things? You said you had a couple. Brinda Deshpande.
Oh gosh.
Okay, so can you scroll up a little bit? So the thing that Daniel just said, 1.2.2.3, yeah, so I feel like that should literally just say, keep track of liaisons.
Yeah.
Like that, literally that broad. So that's one thing. Second thing is, for the liaison responsibilities, I think you should set a date by which organizations should be notified for their liaison. That's it for me.
June 1st? Same day as the, no, it has to be before that. What do you guys want to do? Oh no, but because we're in a weird implementation cycle technically as well.
Yeah.
I think you could.
Are you reassigning liaisons each semester?
It would be every year, every new board.
The thing is that currently not every organization has a
Yeah.
liaison, and under this, every organization would have one.
You could.
Whether or not
talk
they're
to
requesting
more
finance
huge
board?
finance board.
Yeah, it's just your way in.
Because technically, if anyone is permitted to request, then they should still have the same systems.
You could have them lumped in with big finance board summer meeting.
Yeah,
Just when you
sure.
assign the chair stuff, because that has to happen before
Yeah.
you even have your June 1st date.
Definitely, yeah.
Unless they create your set.
Oh no, but legal wants a set date. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Legal always wants a set date. Yeah.
Because in the statutes, you have a bunch of notification dates that the chair has
Yeah.
to notify boards and all that stuff, so just keep the language.
Can we just add to the first meeting? You know, like the takeover meeting?
The first meeting of the.
When
Yeah,
they,
but
when
they
they
might
assume,
choose.
when they assume responsibility,
Or-
like for us, it would be May 14th or whatever it is, when
I
they
would say
assume
that's an
responsibility.
informal
Is it?
assumption of responsibility, yeah.
That's summer chair.
I was going to say, because also, like, I guess that would have to be handled by the summer chair.
Yeah, it would be.
Um,
Well,
But
no,
you
it'd be
can't
handled by the vice chair.
assign
Or summer vice chair,
responsibilities
yeah.
in the guiding docs to the summer leadership, because that's an informal.
You don't get big boards, so you can't assign them.
Why do we have to utilize the summer? Why can't they just simply election of a chair?
or can we assign it to
Why?
the previous?
Because it's informal, they can only elect informal positions.
So they can't elect, you can't elect your chair and vice chair because you can't require newly elected people to be there this year. Because if they have a time conflict,
Okay.
they haven't signed up for that, so.
Yeah, but the way the finance board is looking right now is that by that first big meeting in the summer, you have to have a chair though. You can't have an informal one.
It'll be the informal summer chair.
It'll be the informal summer chair.
That will be presided for the meeting.
legislation to be passed this summer,
Yeah.
you can't have an informal chair introduce legislation, can you?
I don't know.
No, by Robert's rules.
We got a week to fix that.
By Robert's rules of order, you can't have anyone who doesn't officially hold the power to introduce that legislation.
Yeah,
If you don't follow it,
can
exactly.
we not? Is it like a tradition that we don't do it, or is it like we can't do that?
So, if you're going to have the summer chair be at the June meeting.
Because they all have to be at the June meeting.
Then I think you have to put that language in your guiding documents.
So we
Somehow.
just elect the chair at
Because
that meeting?
you have to elect another chair in the fall, like that's how it works. You can't just be like, okay, the summer chair is also the chair for the year. Because there will be people who weren't present at the May 14th meeting that
No,
would
no,
have done
but no, let's say they do it at the big first meeting, right? Like they elect a chair at the very first meeting.
in the fall.
No, in like, I'm thinking because like this year's a weird one, right?
Well, you
Implementation
have
cycle
this
is
problem
weird.
every year.
Will you?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is,
They have a
It's
summer
only-
meeting, right? Don't you have a summer meeting every year?
Yeah.
Or is it
Technically,
just
because
this
I
year?
thought it was the
We're gonna have to have a
It's a
summer meeting
system.
because we have to allocate
I
all the funds during summer.
Didn't,
Or no?
Yeah.
spring.
Yeah.
no, it's in the
No.
spring. You
Yeah,
issue
it'll be
your
the
budgets
spring.
in the spring. Because
It'll
this
be
one's an
right after spring
implementation
break.
cycle.
Yeah. This is just.
Oh, true. No.
It'll be right
So,
after.
okay, so it's just
Yeah,
this year.
it's just this
Yeah.
year, but we have to like figure something out for this year though.
Okay, yeah, I don't know, ask it.
You can make-
Alright, everyone, we'll ask Candace. It's a good one. Tanya, can you ask Candace?
Candace Martinez then.
Yes, Assistant Director for Student.
She, her.
But you can always add in a subsection
What
saying with the exception of
specifically am I
implementation,
asking?
your
I
work
feel like this is a
system.
multi-layered
Yeah.
question.
That's probably your simplest way of doing it.
I
is
mean,
that'll cover-
honestly,
We'll just clear it.
I don't think you're,
Huh?
like, I feel like once you elect your summer chair, you should literally be okay for legislation. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Better.
I, like, check with Candace, but I really don't think it's
We're
that
running through
much of a
Candace,
big
and
deal.
we'll vote on this next week, everyone. But let's keep going through this,
Yeah.
additional things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can just continue.
Grammatically, we're missing a part to skip to the section 1.2.3, I believe.
Also, there's no such thing as finance board statutes. There's the budgetary statutes and the finance board procedure. So,
There's a parenthesis at the end of Sahas. It's two because you have a strict parenthesis.
Okay, hold on. I got two different things going on.
Wait on first.
Where were you?
1.2.3, go toward the end. That should be a double end parenthesis because you started with the as seen in, and then you also parentheses for Sahas.
I added the second one there. Okay.
Just a grammatical thing with this legislation.
Yeah.
also, I don't even know if you need to include the title of the section. If you're saying what the section number is, I don't think you necessarily need to have the parentheses of like, C7, like, say section 7 of this document.
Actually, yeah. Also, that restricts you in case you add in a subsection at the beginning or something, then you have to modify this legislation in turn if you add it in for any changes to the thing.
Can we just
You have to do it anyway.
modify it anyway? Yeah, if it like change it, like, oh no,
It's
it's
just
change
more
section 8. I guess we'll like change it to section 8. But I just, like, it's seeing how it's referenced in other guiding documents is usually like capital S section 7.5 or whatever, and that's it. It seems a little excessive.
Well, we have a
That's
week to
just
fix
like
those
personal
reference to the other stuff. We're fine. Okay.
So is it in the budgetary statutes or the procedure rules?
Which one?
I'm saying
Sorry.
it needs to change from finance board statutes to budgetary statutes.
Yeah, budgetary statutes.
Finance board procedure. And yeah, that's the same thing for all of them.
Budgetary statutes.
Um,
Okay, everyone. So good later. Implementation. Okay. Additional things?
You should also change it in 1.2.3.5 because you also mentioned that this has that.
And the one after.
Oh. I want to have communications come from you as well, from the liaisons. Yeah, so right now it says respond to all email communications with student organizations pertaining to finance board requests. I'd like to make it more like That's email. There's like full name broad. They call you, you still have to respond to. Like, you know, or like a pigeon or something. You still have to respond to it. But also, I'd like to channel, I'd like to run communications for you in class and stuff like that. I just want to make the decision, pass it through the liaison down there.
I would also take out in the SGA office.
Yeah, you can have your, what's it called? Office hours anywhere, technically.
I would recommend you have your office hours not in the SGA. That would be great.
Meet with people,
We
not
have a
here.
sign. Put your sign up.
Kick people out of our office.
I'm kicking people out of my office.
Well,
Gonna
that wouldn't
that
be
one.
open then, correct? Because that would be referring to like meetings with those organizations, not an open thing. So if they were open, how would that be advertised?
Do you have to reserve space?
Well, not necessarily that you have to have them outside of the office. I just don't think you have to say.
Yeah, you don't have to have them in your office though. You can have them anywhere.
Would be
Yeah.
required weekly.
It's just weird referring to the office.
Get rid of
the
weekly
night
as well,
of.
it's up to the vice chair's discretion.
Yeah, I was gonna say that,
Yeah.
that limits the vice chair's power in terms of if there's a slow section, or the week off average.
Yeah, like, hey, spring break, come to campus. It's a weekly demanded of you.
I'd say hold regular office hours.
Yeah.
When to end advertise? Question mark.
I suppose.
I mean, if they're open, they should be advertised.
Yeah. But never leave anything to interpretation, right? Explicitly state. Okay, anything else?
Are we okay with changing respond to email as engage and reciprocate?
Just respond to communications.
Respond to
Yeah.
communication.
Well, because we're
Also, it's because like you're supposed to, if like the parent tells you to go contact someone,
Be responsible for it.
Communicate.
just communicate with student organizations to pay the highest order buses.
There you go.
What do you want to have to do?
This is why Brenda gets paid the big bucks.
She really
Even though we just cut her salary.
No, isn't it the same?
It's slightly
My
lower.
salary.
It is
Yeah.
like lower kind of.
Sad.
All right.
I love to hear.
I mean, for this one, I think that's a good amount of changes right now. And if you please look through this, everyone, to make sure that everything is A-okay to go. And can you go back to the agenda for me? All right. And announcements. I know Tanya has an announcement.
SRCs, your regular one and your peer. And it's the last one before the SRC meeting, so do not be late.
Yeah.
They get closed. You will not be able to access them.
Okay. Additional announcements.
If,
Celebrating Arts tomorrow night.
Yeah, celebrate those boards.
That's in the agenda, right?
Owen has an announcement.
It's my music cut me off, but it's cool.
Oh, I think you're speaking.
Student org renewal is May 15th, so if you're working with student orgs, make sure that they're doing that. If they have met with me, they should be transitioning their leaders on what we talked about in our meeting. And it can only be accessed by a UMBC email. And if they haven't already had a mandatory meeting with me, I'm deleting their form, because it's not considered applicable. So,
Okay.
there you go.
That's people.
Behind you.
Well,
You are running out of time to RSVP for that end of year dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I should get some relatives.
do risk.
Oh shit, that's.
Yep.
Vote for your superlatives.
RSVP is by Friday because the catering is going to have council. So please do that if you do intend to go in 5, 6 p.m.
What day is it again?
So Friday 10th.
May
Friday, May 10th.
And inauguration is at a fire team.
Yes, so inauguration is that one.
So come out to that.
11.
Oh, it's stress free zone by the Yay!
Oh, yeah.
No, that's on a Thursday.
May
Oh,
13th.
That's Monday.
Yeah, May 13th is the inauguration. So what time is stress free zone?
2 to 7.
So get inaugurated from 12 to 1, and then
And then de-stress. Because we got five of them.
Because we have self-insured for the
Are there any final announcements before I recognize people? Seeing that there are none, I recognize as Kunal is present, I'm present, Scott is present, Zane is present, Joshua is present, Ryan is present, Michael is present, Carmen is present, and Jessica is present. Meeting adjourned.